everything which is happening today, since the beginning of the war, is clearly against the interest of Russia. Russia is not isolated for a long period of time. Russia is going to be poor. Russia is going to be bankrupt. Russian people are going to be losing a lot of their wealth as well as a lot of their relations with the rest of the world. Therefore, there is nothing that is positive for Russia in this endeavor.
So do you see this war changing the geopolitics profoundly?
It is not a change in geopolitics. It is the climax of existing knots of snakes we are in. There are thousands of nuclear weapons ahead of our heads, above our heads. Russia is not yet well into the democratic world, to say the least, as well as China. Therefore, as long as all the main totalitarian regimes are not moving to democracy, we are in threats of war, because we should remember that as far as today, there has never been a war between two democracies. But totalitarian regimes are always a strong reason to make war to democracies, because democracies are a threat to them. A threat because they give ideas to their citizens that we should prefer to live in a democracy.
So what does it take to undo that knot?
Not to be too much negative and pessimistic, not to be weak. Look at any opening of negotiations. Support the people in the countries which are bold enough to resist, such as in Ukraine or Russia. Welcome all the Russian bold people that take advantage of the situation and take risks. Do whatever we can to modify the feeling of Russians as well as the feeling of Chinese that we are not their enemy and that they will be better off if they were a democracy.
You've been saying that we should be Russia's ally of the people. Do you still hold that view?
Yeah, I hold the view that Russia is part of Europe, at least for some part of its territory, and that a democratic Russia should be welcome in the European Union. If I can come earlier, when I had the idea to create the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, my idea and the idea of many countries in the West was that it was in the interest of the West to hook Russia to democracy, and we tried our best to do it.
1989年、ベルリンの壁が崩壊。東欧諸国が次々と市場経済に移行し、民主化に動き出します。アタリさんはフランス・ミッテラン大統領に東欧の復興や開発を支援する銀行の設立を提言。その後、初代総裁に就任し、崩壊へと向かうソビエトを巻き込みながら新たなヨーロッパを構築しようと模索を続けました。You've mentioned the creation of EBRD, which you were the first head of. Wasn't this crisis the sort of crisis that's something that you worked so hard to prevent in your capacity?
Yes, well, I am proud to say that I had the idea of creation of the EBRD, and I was in position with the French President François Mitterrand to launch the initiative and to have a negotiations treaty in Paris, and the treaty signed very rapidly, and against the will of the Americans, which were very reluctant to have Russia, the Soviet Union on the table, and the potential of putting Russia to the Soviet Union and then later Russia within the bank, for the first time in an international institution, democratic conditionality. We should not, the bank cannot provide funding to a country which is not moving towards democracy. And that was agreed.
I do not, of course, mean to put any blame on Europe, but a framework like the BBRD must have been well equipped to take the pulse of the concerns or the grievances on the part of Kremlin or countries like Russia, which can develop into a sort of a risk. Were there any signs or indications that you feared that would develop one day into the sort of risk that we are facing today?
Yes, for sure. And with the benefit of insight, as I said very often, we could have done better. We could have heard some messages coming from the Kremlin that they are interested in joining the European Union 20 years ago. So that's for sure. The Kremlin continued to say, we are interested, we want to join, and we did sign, because Europe is also waiting for signs, rule of laws, fight against corruption, full democracy. We would have, I'm sure that European countries would have welcomed Russia moving into that direction, and the more Russia would have been democratic, the easier it would be for the Europeans to accept them.
Although the end of Cold War did not mean perpetual peace, attention shifted elsewhere after the end of the Cold War, for example to China, as if Russia was a secondary nation vis-a-vis the US.
Let me explain you that. First, it was not all a failure because a lot of countries of the communist bloc become real democracies and now part of Europe. Hungary, Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, and Russia. Why it didn't happen to Russia? Because Russia is a large country, because Russia ruling class was badly behaved, which was very difficult for the West to interfere. And also, as I said, because there is this thing that in the US, there is a need for an enemy. The US needs an enemy always. And China has been targeted as an enemy of the US, while in my view, China was far from being an enemy at the beginning and could be not an enemy of the US. And when the US were in danger, at least the industrial military complex in the US was in danger with the need to get subsidies from the Congress to have a friend. And they need Russia as a friend. There is an alliance of interest between some people in the industrial military complex and the extremistic field.
アタリさんは3月、自らのホームページでロシアの人々を歓迎しようという文章を公開しました。今起こっているのは前世紀からの冷戦の最後の残骸なのだ。私たちは最悪の事態を避けるために冷静さを保つべきだ。We spoke about the end of Cold War and the demise of the USSR. Would you say that what we are seeing today marks the end of the post-Cold War?
I think what we see today are the last events of the Cold War, because there was never post-Cold War. There are more than 6,000 nuclear missiles on each side. Russia has never been an ally of the West in any part. The Cold War has never ended. This is the climax, one of the climax of the Cold War. and maybe the end of Cold War is later.
What do we need to be braced for now that you say Cold War has actually not ended?
Now we should hope that we go to the end of Cold War by people understanding through this tragedy that Cold War is a lose-lose scenario. That everybody has everything to lose, and that in the modern world, that lead to a catastrophe. It's why we in the most optimistic scenario, this crisis will make understand to everybody that we should end Cold War for real. That we need a change in the behavior of everybody in the West as well as in Russia.
How do we do that?
By making people understand that, make people in Russia understand that they have nothing to win by that, and by them understanding that moving to market democracy is the best for them. Not to humiliate them, not to say that they are bad people, but to explain them that their own selfish interest is in democracy and market economy.
It's your philosophy of altruism, almost.
Yes, it's exactly that, what I call rational or selfish altruism. It is in the selfish interest of the West to explain to the Russians that they must be democratic, and it is in the selfish interest of Russians to understand that they must join democracy. Today we boycott, which is silly to boycott the Russian orchestras or Russian music or whatever. It's silly. We should welcome them more. We should play them more. We should understand them more. We should let them, of course, not the musicians which are Kremlin backing, but the music, the theater, the literature. We should know more of them. We should open our arms to them and do more with them.
Thank you very much. That would be something that we would hold on to as we live through this difficult time.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you, and I do hope that you can do the best of what I've said.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Attali.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.